Hello everyone, welcome to session 25 of Selenium training. In today's session, I'm going to continue the core Java. So to start with, we'll start with this overriding concept. So what is overriding? What is overriding? When a method in the child class is duplicate of a method in the parent class. Okay, when a method in the child class is a duplicate of method in the parent class, then the method in the subclass is said to override the method in the superclass. Okay, let me show you practically this particular statement. Let me show you practically. So let me close all classes. Close. Okay, I closed everything. I deleted. I am deleting this project, guys. Let me demonstrate overriding concept first. Right click new project. Next overriding project. Right click on src. Say new class. Okay. Fine. Let's say there is a car class. Let me check the example. Okay. Normally given. Fine. One method one. Okay, guys. So let me create my own example. That is car class. Finish. This is one class, guys. And I will create another class. New class. This is Ben's class. Let's say Ben's class. Finish. So far two classes, right? So far two classes. Now another class I will create. Right click new. Let me call this class as some demo class. Finish. Okay, fine. Okay, so let me arrange it properly. Okay, fine. Here is the car class. Here is the Benz class. Here is the demo class. I want to make this car class a parent of this Benz class, guys. Okay, I want to make the car class as parent class and Benz class as child class. Car class as parent class and Benz class as child class. I want to make. But before that, let me create some variables and methods inside the car class. Int, otherwise string, car model, fine, and public static void start car, system dot out dot println starting car in which class? Car class. Okay, starting car in car class. Fine, guys. Now inside the Benz class, I will also create some method. Let's say public static. Why static? Static is not required. Public void start car. Here also start car. Same method, guys. Okay. The same method is in parent class. Same method is going to be there in the child class. Okay. Let's have it like that. System dot sysout control space. Starting car in Benz class. Fine, guys. like this. The car class I wrote system.out.println starting car in car class. The Benz class I wrote starting car in class Benz class. Do you see any duplicate methods across the classes, guys? Car class and Benz class. Do you see any duplicate methods, guys?
Start car.
Yes, start car is a duplicate method, right? But it's in a different class. Here car class is there, here Benz class is there. These duplicate methods are across the different class. No issues. You can create duplicate methods in different classes, but you cannot create duplicate methods inside the same class. It's allowed. Okay, it's allowed to create duplicate methods inside a different class. That's fine. But I want to make this Benz class a child class of this car class. Okay, what will happen, guys? When I make this Benz class a child class of this car class, will this duplicate methods will be allowed or not? When I make this Benz class a child class of this parent class called car, can I be able to have this duplicate method in the child class? Okay, speak out, guys. You are pinging over chat, but just speak out.
No, I guess.
Okay. Anyone? Any more guesses, guys? Not sure, or some people are pinging like not sure, yes, no, and all those stuff. Okay. Let me clear the confusion, guys. Okay. So when I make this a child class of this car class, my question is whether I can create duplicate method in the child class or not. Without having this as a child class, I can create a duplicate method across different class. That's allowed. But when I make this as a child class, will this be allowed as a duplicate method or not? It's a question. So it's allowed, guys. Okay, it's allowed. The answer is yes. You can still have duplicate methods even after making the Benz class a child class of the car class. It's allowed. Hence, it's allowed. It's allowed, guys. Okay, you can still have the duplicate methods in the child class. But what is the purpose, guys? Same method is there in the car class, same method is there in the child class. Okay, what is the purpose? Why we are creating duplicate methods in the child class? Even though this particular method in the parent class is inherited by this child class. Anyhow, this is part of the child class, right? But why you are creating another method and then trying to implement its own implementation of Benz class? Okay, fine. So what will happen? I'll explain you now. Now this is a start car method in the parent class. This is a start car method in the child class, that is Benz class. Implementation is different. You see, even though the method is same, inside implementation is different. Here it is saying starting the car in car class. Which class? It is starting car class. Whereas this implementation it's saying that starting car in Benz class, not car class, Benz class. Okay. So let me demonstrate you how what will happen when I create a duplicate method in child class. Okay, what will happen? Let me demonstrate. Suppose I create a method here, public static void main string of x. Inside this main method, how to access this start car method, guys? How can I access the start car method? Anyone? I want to access inside this demo class, inside this main method. I want to call this start car method of the car class. What I have to do? Anyone?
Create an object for it.
Yes. Car C is equal to new car. Car C is equal to new car. Now when I say T dot start car, which method will be called? I have the duplicate methods right across different classes. When I create an object for the car class, this start car method will be called or this start car method will be called? Which one, guys? Speak out.
It should be the maybe the class car.
Yes, that's correct. This start car, C dot start car will access this start car. That's correct. Now, what if I create an object for the Benz class? Benz B is equal to new Benz B dot start car. Now guys, there are two possibilities, right? This is a child class of the car class. This child class is inheriting this method called start car from the parent class. At same time, it has a duplicate method for the same method in the parent class. So when I say b dot start car, will this method will be called, or this method inherited method from the child car class will be called, or the child class car will be called?
Child class car.
Yes, that's correct, guys. So the simple concept here is why it is calling the child class car, even though it's inheriting the this part same method in the parent class, because guys, the duplicate method in the child class is overriding the duplicate method in the parent class. Simple reason. Okay. When I say b dot start car, it will call this method. C dot start car will directly call this start car method, whereas b dot start car will call this method. This method is called as overridden method. Okay, overriding. This method is overriding the same method in the parent class. Whenever you create some duplicate methods in the child classes, okay, those methods will override the say duplicate methods in the parent classes. Okay, and when you try to access with the help of the child class objects, the overridden methods will be called, guys. Okay, overriding methods will be called. This is nothing but overriding, guys, nothing more than that. Okay. Method overriding, this concept is known as method overriding. Let me demonstrate, let me run it and see. So this should print starting car in car class. This second statement should print starting car in Benz class. Let's see. Right click, run as Java application. So executing. Let's wait for some time. Okay. First, c dot start car. This method is printing this one. This calling method is executing the starting car in car class. Whereas b dot start car, Benz dot start car, it's saying starting car in Benz class. It has called the overridden method in the child class. Overridden method in the child class. Whereas this called the method in the parent class directly, because you directly create an object for the car class and access it. Here, the overridden method is called. So this method is known as overriding method. Overriding method is fine. So I will do one more thing, guys. I will tweak it a bit. This up to here it is clear, right, guys? Up to here it is clear, right?
Arun,
Yeah.
if there is no relation between car class and bench class, like it is not a parent and it is not a child, then if we call b dot star class star car, which method it calls?
This method only, same method. But in this case, b dot start car will call the start car method in the Benz class. That's correct. But thing is that here this method cannot be called as an overridden method, right? Since there is no relation between the car class and Benz class, this method
Okay.
cannot be called as an overridden method. That's the only difference. Other than that, nothing will happen. Here,
Okay.
when you override a method, there is a problem, right? Some people may get confused whether the inherited method will be called or overridden method will be called. Okay, just for that situation or case, okay, we have to say that overridden method will be called. The overridden method that is there in the child class will be called. Okay,
Okay.
remaining things are same. Got it, right?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. So that's it. Now, guys, I am changing a bit. Okay, car class is a parent class, Benz class is a child class. Okay, but here in the start car I am saying index. Now what will happen? Now what will happen, guys? Can anyone guess the output? Simple. I just changed the parameter here. Okay, this is start car. This is start car, but it has some parameter. Single parameter is there, or it can have multiple number of parameters, or it may have the different type of parameter data types or something. Okay, is it same? Now, is this a duplicate method of this one, this or not? Anyone?
No, Arun.
No, right? What
No.
these kind of methods are called?
Parameterized methods.
Yeah, that's
Using
correct. But in the previous sessions, I explained, right? When you have the same name, but
Overloading.
yeah, which one?
Overloading. Method
Yes,
overloading.
yes, yes. Yes, guys, that's correct. Okay, it's overloaded overloading. This particular method is overloading this method in the, but here it's not overloading inside the same class. It's overloading across the inheritance concept. Across the inheritance concept, overloading can be there, guys, still. Okay, overloading may not be restricted to a single class. It can be across the classes. When this is a child class, this is a parent class, still overloading is possible. Okay, so now this method is overloading this method. Okay, even though the name is same, it's not a duplicate method, guys. This method is not a duplicate method of this method. Instead, this method is a overloading method of this method. So this method is different and this method is different. Fine. Now, guys, just let me know the output now. So things are good. So what will happen in this case? When I execute this one, what will be the output? This particular method will call which method in the inheritance classes, and which this particular method will call which method. Can anyone guess it?
Both the method call the class car start car method.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. So what's happening here is when I say c dot start car, when I say c dot start car, it will directly call this method in the car class. Okay, it will directly call the method in the class. That's correct. But coming to b dot start car, what will happen? Is there any method in the child class having the start car without any parameters? In the child class, is there any start car method without any parameters? No,
No.
right? No. So what you will do? But one thing here is, since this Benz is a child class of the car class, this method will be inherited by the Benz class, right? Though it's not visible here, this is actually inherited by this Benz class already. So when I say b dot start car, the inherited method in this Benz class will be called. That means the same method will be called. Okay, got it right? The inherited method in the child class will be called. That is nothing but the method in the parent class will be called. Since this Benz class is the child class of car class, so this variable and this method are part of the Benz class only. When you create an object and try to access it, it will access this one, right? Because it's already inherited. But this one, right? This one has a single parameter. It's not matching. B dot start car is not matching with this because this is an empty parameterized method, whereas this is a single parameterized. In that case, it will inherit this particular method in the child class and access it. Now, if I say b dot start car some number 5, what will happen in this case? So this particular thing will call this method. Okay, this cannot call this method, guys. Okay, instead it will call this method only, which is inherited by default in the Benz class. Okay, let me run it. Right click, can see the difference. Run as Java application. You see, guys, start car in the c dot start car, starting car in the car class. Okay, this got directly called. No confusion here. Whereas b dot start car, it cannot call this method. Instead, it is an empty parameterized method. So what it will do, it will inherit this particular method into the child class and call the same method. So again, the same output will be printed. Starting car in the car class. Now b dot start car of 5. When I say b dot start car of 5, it will call the parameterized single integer parameterized method in the Benz class. So is there anything like that? In the Benz class, there is start car with an integer x. Okay, so it will call this method and starting car in Benz class will be printed. Clear, guys? Is it clear? Okay, someone is pinging our chat. Okay, fine. Okay, guys, that's great. Fine. So is it clear, guys? What's happening here? Is it clear? How the overloaded, okay, overloaded methods are accessed here? Fine. So So this is how overloading and overriding will work across the inheritance concept. Fine. Now guys, one question. I have a question. So I was explaining about overriding, right? Earlier I explained about overloading. Here overloading is there, here overriding is there. So overloading, can I apply the overloading to methods, guys? Guys, respond so that we can.
Yes.
Yes. So overloading can be applied to methods. What actually it is called when I apply to methods? Overloading.
Method overloading.
Yes, right, guys. So same thing. Can I apply for constructors overloading?
Yes.
What actually it's called? Constructor overloading.
Constructor overloading.
That's correct. So these things are there. But coming to overriding, do you think overriding can be applied to both methods and constructors?
I guess no, Arun.
So it can be applied to methods because I already showed you, right? So when I apply overriding to methods, it's called as method overriding. But coming to constructors, can that be applied? The answer is no, guys. You cannot apply overriding to constructors. Can anyone guess why overriding cannot be applied to constructors? Very simple. The answer is in itself. You can imagine that and then you can tell. Okay. Why I cannot apply overriding to constructors? Can anyone guess it? Why overriding cannot be applied to constructors? Okay, let me explain. So guys, let's remove these methods to make it simple. Let's say. So if I have to create a constructor in the car class, how I create, guys? Can anyone give me the syntax?
Arun, I guess it can't have a default constructor. That's why we can't use.
Not like that, but I was expecting a different answer. So just for now, no problem. Okay, just tell me like how to create a constructor in this car class.
Public car.
Yes, public car I will create. That's correct, right? This is fine. But what if I have to create a constructor in Ben's class? How do I create? Anyone? I want to create a constructor in Ben's class. How to create? Same thing.
Public Benz.
Public Ben's. Is there any possibility, guys, to override now? Because to override, I should have a duplicate method or constructor in the child class, right? Can Ben's class become a duplicate method for Ben's constructor can become a duplicate constructor for the car constructor? Is there any possibility?
No.
That's the reason you cannot override constructors. Simple. The rule here is, in order to create a constructor in the car class, it should have the same name as the car class, right? In order to create a constructor in Ben's class, it should have the same name as the car class. So that means I cannot create duplicate constructor in the Ben's class. I cannot say public car here, right? This is not possible. This will not become a constructor. It's not possible. So there is no possibility for overriding. Okay, even though it's inheritance, you cannot have the duplicate constructor in the child class because constructors should have the name of the class name. Okay, whatever the class name is, the particular constructor of that particular class should have the same name. Hence, duplicate thing is not possible. Hence, this thing is not possible. Overriding of constructors is not possible. Only method overriding is possible. Constructor overriding is, that's why not possible. Clear, guys? Is it clear?
Yes.
Any confusions or just let me know.
Yeah, no, Arun, no confusions.
Okay, great, guys. Fine, that's about overriding, guys. That's it about overriding. Let's move to the next big concept, that is modifiers. Okay.
Arun,
Yeah.
class names cannot be duplicate, is it?
It cannot be duplicate.
Okay.
Maybe you can have the same class in a different package.
Okay.
In the same package, you cannot have the same class names. Okay.
Okay.
But if you create multiple packages, under that you can have repeat the same class name. No, that's not a problem. But inside the same package, you can have duplicate classes.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. Now coming to modifiers. Okay. So almost all the basic elements will be now covered, guys. Okay. From the beginning, I was actually making you wait for a few things, right? So all those things will be solved now. I was using public. Somewhere I am using static, right? All these things, all this stuff I am using with or without your knowledge, I was using till now. So I just intentionally kept you waiting so that the time will come where you will understand this modifiers concept in detail. Okay. Now you are in a good position, guys. You can understand modifiers concept, and this will enhance your skills like anything. Okay. Let's focus more on these modifiers. Fine, guys. So this is very good topic, guys. It will clear all your doubts in Java. Modifiers. Modifiers in Java can be categorized as below. Okay. So modifiers in Java can be categorized as two types. What are they? One is access modifiers. Another one is non-access modifiers. Access modifiers and non-access modifiers, guys. Okay. Modifiers in Java can be categorized into two types, that is access modifiers and non-access modifiers. What are access modifiers and what are non-access modifiers? Coming to access modifiers, we have public. Another access modifier is private. Another access modifier is
Protected.
yes, protected. Another one is default. Okay, default access modifier. So access modifiers are done now. Now coming to the non-access modifiers, we have static non-access modifier, and if I clearly remember, it is final. Another one is abstract. Okay, abstract. These are the non-access modifiers. 3 non-access modifiers and 4 access modifiers. Modifiers in Java can be categorized into access modifiers and non-access modifiers, whereas access modifiers can be categorized into public, private, protected, default, whereas non-access modifiers can be categorized into static, final, and abstract. Fine, guys. This is the thing. So, but what actually at a high level, what actually the modifiers are? I'm actually categorizing the modifiers properly now, but what actually the modifiers will do? What's the concept behind the modifiers? Modifiers can be okay. Modifiers can be applied to either classes. You know about classes, right? What is a class? Here, this is a class, right? Car is a class. Okay, can be applied to classes. Can apply to variables. Can be applied to methods. Okay, this doesn't mean that all the modifiers can be applied to. Okay, I am saying the modifiers can be applied to classes, variables, and methods. I'm not saying all the modifiers here, public, private, protected, default, static, final, abstract. All these modifiers may not be applicable to all the classes, variables, and methods. Few may not be compatible with variables. Few may not be compatible with classes. Few may not be compatible with methods. Okay. At a generic way, I'm saying that modifiers can be applied to the classes, variables, and methods. Okay. Modifiers can be applied to the either classes, variables, or methods. All the modifiers may not be applied, but it depends on modifier to modifier whether it can be applied to class, variable, or method. But at a high level, modifiers can be applied to classes, variables, and methods. What will happen when I apply this modifier with classes, variables, and methods? Can anyone guess what will happen? The name itself speaks, guys. Here, modifiers. I am saying it's going to do something. What is that?
It will restrict or it will give, it will restrict or it will give access to the other methods. Or
okay. So simple. I was expecting at a high level. Okay, definition. So here the thing here is when I add these modifiers to either the classes, variables, and method, it it will change the properties. It will modify the properties of these classes, variables, and methods. How they work without these modifiers and with modifiers will differ with. Okay, when I apply these modifiers, it will modify the behavior of these classes, variables, and methods. The way the classes, variables, and methods are going to work will change. That is, will get modified when I apply this modifier. Simple. Okay. So how it will modify all the stuff, I am going to explain one by one. Okay. When I apply public access modifier to any of these things, how it is going to modify the way these classes, variables, and methods are going to work. That thing I am going to explain one by one. Okay. Fine. Now, one more thing before I go with each and every modifier I mentioned here. So one thing I want to state here is private is a modifier, that's access modifier, that's correct. Public also an access modifier. Protected is also access modifier. Coming to default, there is a difference between private, public, protected, and default, guys. Actually, default doesn't exist, guys. Okay, private you already we can have private. Okay, public it can be seen. We can write the public kind of text in the programs. We can write protected kind of text in the programs. We can write private kind of text in the programs. Coming to default, we generally don't write DEFAULT in the programs. Okay, this is nothing but default is for just calling purpose, guys. Default is nothing but if you don't provide anything. Here public is there. If I remove this public, it will become default, guys. Okay. So here one more example is there. If I say public here, so this particular string, if I say public access specifier, right? Access modifier. If I say private access modifier. If I say protected, I have to type every time. I have to provide the keyword, type the keyword here, access modifier here. But if I have to make this default access modifier, I cannot write like this. Okay, this is not correct, guys. This default is not correct. It should be empty. If it is empty, that means that it is a default access modifier. Okay, if I don't provide any access modifier, then it will become default access modifier. Okay, so when we don't specify any modifier, then it will become default access modifier. Fine, guys. Now let's go with one by one. To start with public access modifier. Okay. So let me create a new project. Delete this project. Right click, new project, Java project, next. Modifiers project. Right click, sorry, right click. Under SRC, create a new package. Say this one as yesterday I was creating some packages, right? Let me repeat that. I will say login pack. I'll create another package. Right click, new pack, that is friends pack. Any other package I want to create, I can create this. Okay, right click, new pack, photos pack. Let's say there are 3 packages in this project. First, let me create some classes under the login pack. Right click, new class, login, class called login, and I will create another class that is logout, another one create account, another one forgot password. Like that, I created few classes under the login pack. Similarly, I will create few more classes under the friends pack. Right click, new class, add friends, edit friends, share friends, something. Okay, I'm just randomly creating some classes under the friends pack. So there are few classes under the login pack. There are few classes under the friends pack. That's fine. Let me close all this stuff. Close all. Now guys, let me go to the login class. Let me create some variables and methods. String, username, string, password. Fine. String username, string password. And I will say here public void login here. Some method I am creating. Here I will say public. Here also I will say public. All the access, here you see the class has public access modifier. This variables have the public access modifier. This method also have a public access modifier. All the things are public only. Public. So guys, it's very clear that public access modifier. What is this public is? Public is a access, one of the access modifiers, right? Access modifier. Public can be applied to three things. One is it can be applied to a class. It can be applied to a variable. It can be applied to a method. Okay, all the three things can be applied with the public access modifier. Okay, classes, variables, and methods, it can be applied to. Public access can be used. Public access modifier can be used with either classes, variables, and methods. All the stuff you can do. Now, I want to access this classes, variables, and methods in a different class inside the same package. Let me open the logout. Let me open the logout. Logout is under the same package where the login class is already there. So how to access this variables and methods and class inside this logout class? Can anyone say how to access? Guys, how to access these things, these variables and methods inside the logout class? Can anyone?
By creating an object.
So do I have to do anything before I create an object here?
Yes, we can import the
method. We need to create a method.
Yes, guys. So you should not create the objects directly. Okay, should not create the objects directly. First, you need to create a method. Inside the methods only you have to create the objects. Let's see what happens. Okay, as the time has come, I'm just trying to just cross check your skills. Fine. Let's create an object without I create a method. This is a class, guys. If I directly create a method inside this class, sorry, if I directly create an object under this class without creating a method, that's a problem, guys. Okay, you cannot do that. You see, login ln is equal to new login. I'm directly create an object for the login class without creating a method. If I say lin dot, I cannot access, guys. It's not work. You will get confused here. You will think that I create an object, but you cannot access. What's went wrong? You will get confused. Nothing, guys. Here nothing went wrong. Simple thing is that you should not create objects directly under the class. Okay. Instead, create a method here. Public void logout here. Some method you create, and in the method you have to create the objects. You should not create the objects directly under the class, guys. Okay, that will not work. Object creation can be done, but you cannot access the variables and methods in the login class with the help of the object reference, right? You are not able to do that. You will get confused. So make sure that you create the methods inside the class and then create the objects inside that particular method. So here I can create login, then is equal to new login. Now if I say lin dot, it will work, guys. Earlier it was not working when I create an object directly under the class, right? I'm not able to access these variables and methods. But now since I have created this object inside this method, inside this particular class, I can access using this object reference, I can access the variables and methods correctly. Fine. Now line dot username is equal to, okay, and line dot password is equal to, okay, fox. Then line dot login here method. Okay, I want to log in. Before logout, I have to log in. So that's the reason I access it. So simple, guys. This example was showed you earlier only. So if you have the classes inside the same package, and if all these variables, all these classes, variables, and methods are of public type, simply you can do like this. You have to just create an object and access it. Okay, this particular class in the same package, and all the variables, classes, methods here are public type. Simply you can create an object and access all the variables and methods without any issues. Okay. Now what if I will open add friends? Same code I want to write inside the add friends. So here also, in order to access this login class, the login class, its variables and methods, what I have to do, guys? Here only difference is add friends from a different package. Okay. Login is from a different package, and logout, login are from the same package, whereas add friends is from a different package. If I have to access the variables, methods of login, okay, login class, but add friends is from a different package, that means something need to be done, right?
Import.
Yes, that's it. Nothing different, guys. Okay, since everything is public, no issues. Public means accessible everywhere, within the package, outside the package. All these variables, classes, and methods are accessible everywhere. But only thing you have to do is import. Nothing more than that. Here also I will create a method. Okay, you should first create a method. Inside that method only you have to create the object. Public void add friends here. Okay. Now I'll create an object login. Then is equal to new login. You'll get an error, guys. Right? The same thing is that why you're getting error, even though this particular class is a public class, why you're getting the error? Simple, guys. When you hover, it will ask you to import. Once you import, this error will be gone. Okay, you are allowed to access because it is a public class. Public, you can create object for this particular class because it is declared as public class. That's why you can create an object. Only thing you have to do is import. Import you cannot escape. Lin dot username is equal to same thing. Okay. Lin dot password is equal to your post. Okay. Done. Now lin dot login here. Okay. So all the variables and methods are also I am able to access. Here I was able to access three things. One is class, one is variables, and one is methods. All the things I can access, guys. All the things I can access. Fine. Let's keep this example like this. So these things are done. I demonstrated that. Now private access modifier. So one difference that is coming here. Here public can be applied to the classes, variables, and methods, right? Here public can be applied to the classes, variables, and methods. What about private, guys? Private is also another. It's also another access modifier, right? Private is also another access modifier. Can I apply private to classes, variables, and methods? All? Is it possible, guys? Private cannot be applied to classes, guys. Okay, it's not possible. You cannot provide private before a class. See, let's say in login class, if I make this public to private, immediately it will give an error saying that illegal modifier. You cannot use private. Either you have to use, okay, public. or default. Okay, you cannot use private. It should be public only. Okay, public or default, guys. You cannot use the private here. So private is not allowed before the class. What about the variables and methods? Can I use? Yes, you can use private. You can apply the private access modifier with variables and methods. That's possible. These are two are possible, but class is not possible. You cannot apply private to the class. So what if I make this? Since I cannot apply the private to the class, I will not disturb this. I will still give this public. Okay, because I cannot make public to private, because private cannot be applied to the classes. But I can apply the private to variables and methods. So I will make all these variables and methods as private. I made all these variables and methods as private, guys. Do you think if I make this private, can I access from this same logout class, which is in the same package, and add friends class, which is there in the different package? Is it possible now to access these variables and methods? I can create an object because that particular class is a public class, right? Login class is still public class only. I can create object. Even in add friends also I can create an object because that is a public class. Even though that is inside the package or outside the package, I can create an object for the login class because login class is a public class. But coming to the variables and methods, they are private type now. Okay, they are not public, they are private. Private means restricted to the same class. You cannot utilize this username, password, and login here outside the class. The scope of these variables and methods are inside the login class only. Okay, you cannot use these variables and methods outside the class. That means the boundary is set to login class. So how can then you use with logout? It's not possible, guys. This is not possible. You cannot access like this. Okay, you have to remove it. You cannot access the private variables and methods outside the class. Okay, outside the class. No matter the class is outside the inside the same package or outside the same package, you cannot access the private variables and methods because private specified variables and methods can be only accessed within the class. Clear, guys? Is it clear? Guys, is it clear? Okay, okay, great, guys. Fine. Everyone is pinging our chat. It looks like everyone understood this concept. Private means within the class. You cannot access outside the class. Remember that. Now let's go with the default access modifier. Third type of access modifier, that is default access modifier. So I can apply to all the things, right? Simple thing is default. Default means nothing, guys. If you don't specify any modifier, it will become default. Okay, you should not type default text before the classes, variables, and methods. But default means if you don't specify anything, that is nothing but default. 3. One is class, one is variable, one is methods. Okay, can be applied. Default access modifier can be applied with class, variables, and methods. So what I will do, simply I will go to the login class and remove this public. It will work. Okay, because default can be applied with the login class. So I will also make this variables and methods also default. So I will remove this. I will remove the access modifiers before the variables and methods. Now every method, every variable, and this particular class has become default. They are applied with default access modifier. You will not see any issues. Okay. So when I made them default, guys, one of the issues got resolved here. Okay. If I say lin dot username, I can access. Okay. I can access in the logout class, which is in the same package, right? Lin dot password. I can now access, guys. In the times of private, I was not able to access these variables and methods, right? But now I can access the variables and methods of the login class, which are of default, which are specified as default access modifier, which are specified as default access modifier. I can still specify, right? Things are good. So that means within the same package, default will act as a public, guys. Okay. Default will act as a public. Default access modifier will act as public for all the classes which are inside the same package. Default access modifier specified class, default access modifier specified variables, and default access specified methods will act as public for all the classes which are inside the same package. Since logout is inside the same login pack, okay, default class variables and methods will become private, will appear like private. That's why you can access like like public. Okay, default class, default variables, default methods will become public for all the classes within the same package. So public class, public variables, public methods can be accessed, right? So that's why you are able to access. Default classes, variables, and methods will act like public for the classes which are inside the same package. Logout is in the same package. That's why they became public for this class. What about the add friends class, which is outside the login pack? We add friends is under friends pack, which is a different package. What will happen, guys? Default will become private. Okay, you cannot even create an object, guys. You see, I cannot import also. Okay, you cannot even create an object for the class. Okay, if there is a default access modifier before the class, okay, it's not up to the variables methods. You cannot even create an object for the class if that class is specified as default access modifier. Okay, so outside the package they will become private, guys. You cannot access outside the package. Within the package you can access. Within the package you can access the class, variables, and methods, but outside the package you are restricted to use. They will become private, completely private, guys. Okay, you cannot even create an object for the class. So you don't have to, if you're not able to create an object for the class, there is no use that you can access the variables and methods, right? Without object reference you cannot access variables and methods. So it will become private. So that's about the default access modifier, guys. Within the package they become public. Outside the package they will become private. You cannot use. Okay. Now the last access modifier, guys, the last access modifier, that is protected access modifier. Protected access modifier. What if I go to the login class? Okay. Okay. So first of all, before going there, protected access modifier. Can I apply protected access modifier to the classes, variables, and methods? Class, variable, method. Okay. So simply I cannot specify protected access modifier with class. Class, it's not applicable, guys. Similar to private, you cannot specify private with class. Similarly, cannot specify protected with a class. But you can make this variable. You can specify this variable and methods with protected. Okay. Here, let that be public, and I am going to make this protected. Okay, protected. And this also protected. All the variables and methods I am making them protected, guys. Okay, and I cannot apply protected for a class. Now protected means public for all the classes which are inside the same package. If the logout, similar to default, guys. Okay, similar case of default, guys. Same thing. Default and protected are almost same. Okay, this default access modifier and protected modifier are all almost same. One difference is there, I will tell at the end. So default means public to all the classes which are inside the same package, and private to all the classes which are outside the package, right? Similarly, protected also means the same thing, guys. Okay, protected also means public to all the classes which are inside the same package, and private to all the classes which are outside the package. But there is a difference, I will come there. Okay, there is a difference, I will come there. Okay, so protected, since everything is protected, they will act as a public to the classes which are inside the same package. Logout is inside the same package, so it's fine. So this class, variables, and method will act as a public things, and then you can access them easily without any issues. Coming to add friends, let me create an object for the login class. I can create because For login class, there is public guys. Public classes can be create an object. So let me say login then is equal to new login. I can create because outside package also create. I can create because that particular class is specified with public access specifier modifier. Okay. Simply you need to import it. That's it. When you import, you can use. Okay. I can use now. If I say lin dot, will I be able to access this protected variables and methods? Can I access, guys? I cannot access because protected also will become private for the classes which are outside the package. Similar to default, protected will also act as a private outside the package. Outside the package, protected variables and methods will act like private. So you cannot access. But there is a way, guys. But there is a way to access it. What is that way? There is a difference between default and protected. Okay, if you still want to access this particular variables and methods inside the add friends class, there is a way. Okay, I'm going to explain that. You don't have to create the object. First of all, you don't have to create an object. Simply what you need to do here is I have to make this add friends class a subclass of this login class. That means extends login, I have to say. Okay, now import this login class. So when this add friends class which are outside the package login pack, okay, add friends class which is outside the login pack external package, you can say. If it extends the login class, then only you can access this variables and methods. Okay. So if I say string username is equal to here, or else I will access it directly. Username is equal to I can access, guys. Why? Because now add friends is a child class of this login class. Login class is a parent, so you can utilize. You can use these variables. Password is equal to inheritance concept, guys. Okay, inheritance concept is possible in protected, whereas default even inheritance is also not possible. Password Fox. That's strict private, whereas this will allow the inheritance concept. That method also I will directly call, that is login here, right? Login here method. Okay, directly I can access. Login here method I can directly access. So because of the inheritance concept, okay, I can access the variables and methods in this login class, which is in a different package. Even though these things are protected, I can access. But what if I make them default? Default means private, right? Even protected means private to outside external package classes. Even protected means private to all the external package classes. Even default also is the same thing. They're also private, but only difference is default are very strict, guys. Okay, default means complete private. You cannot even access in the child class also. You see, you are getting errors now. Even though you make this add friends as a child class of the login class, still you cannot access. Very strict. But when I make this as protected, okay, then this is the difference, guys. What is the difference between default and protected? This is the difference. Okay, with protected, you can make the external package classes as child classes of this class, okay, and then access the variables and methods. It's possible now. It's possible. Did you understand the difference, guys? What is the difference between default and protected? Guys, is it clear? Guys, is it clear? What is the difference between default and protected?
Yes, sir.
Great. Fine. I think that's it for today, guys. So I will take up this static, final, and abstract tomorrow. Okay, non-access modifiers I will take it tomorrow. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, guys. Otherwise, I will wind up. Any questions, guys, before I wind up for today's session? From today's session? No. Okay, fine, guys. Then see you tomorrow at the same time. Okay. Bye, guys.